Hello again. Right, so in lecture 2, we looked at importing information from a text file into Microsoft Access. Go over that again. Really important. That information comes into our Microsoft Access as a table. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is that now that we know what a table looks like, each entry is referred to as a record. As a record. Let's go back to the table. And as you can see in this example, there are 15 records. Let's go back into that. Here's our table. And each of these, Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Taylor, Mrs. Wilson, these are all individual records. And all these records are within fields. Title is a field. Surname is a field. First name is a field. Initial, let's make that bigger. Oops, sorry. Let's just, yeah. Yeah, and these are all fields. You can see they, in a way, what's the word? Microsoft Access comes with all those things that, you almost have to go and look for in Excel. It's got the filters available for you to sort. It's got sorts. You can sort, So, this allows you to sort of do a bit more than Microsoft Excel would. So what you can see here, this is a record of, for example, this is a certain Mrs. Smith, her initial, her address, Leeds, West Yorkshire. She likes, what does she buy? We're talking about flowers here. A mixed basket of flowers, artificial flowers. The price is £20. And you can see here it says receipt required. It's got numbers. You can see there are further fields along. So I hope that's jogging your memory and making you think about what this really does, or what Access can really do here. So we've had a look at what the different fields look like. Like I said, this information is broken up into different fields, and when we talk about fields, we talk about the names, the addresses, now just this is a focus point. At this point, yes, I want you to remember this. It's important to understand that databases have two sides to them. This is important. So, the first side, yes, is what's referred to as the backstage, right? Now, there is something called the backstage, which is where, for example, the owners or the administrators, they operate and they can set the fields or the terms of information entry. So, for example, this table, right, is, if you like, the backfield. I mean, it is usually used as a backfield or a backstage. So, for example, you're working within an organization, you're just putting information in, no problem. You've got clients and you're putting their information. So you can go in and you can set the different fields. And in terms of setting the different fields, you can see we can choose whether we want to see the surname, the name. So, for example, when I say set the different fields, what we do here, this is the very first process here. We click here on home. Yes, home. And we have this thing here called view. I'll do it again. So we want file. The main operations take place under this ribbon of home. We have view. So if you click on view, we go to what's referred. Right now what you're seeing is called the datasheet view. All right. Now we can go to something called the design view. Now these are the fields. Now I'll just go back again to the datasheet view, right? You can also right click on your mouse and go to the design view, right? Two ways. Right click on your mouse and go to design view, or you can go here to view and you can go to design view. Exactly the same thing. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying, right, that databases enable the business to set what they want to be able to put in each field. So, for example, observe, look at this. Let's just go back to the datasheet view. Here, currently, we have prices, 20, 15, just numbers in there, right? You see? Now, here we have receipt required and it says 101. Remember, we brought this information in from a text file. So, receipt required, what we actually really want is for it to say yes or no. Yes? And so, what databases allow us to do is to be able to restrict or set whether or not you can type in letters or numbers or currency or yes or no into different fields. And how do we do this? We do this by going to the design view. We're going to come back and talk about this design view for quite a bit. And you can see here, you can choose how you wish to set, if you like, a certain field. Yes, and you can see here, yes or no, auto number, currency. Well, I guess for title, we would like text. And most of the time, people like text. That makes sense. Yes, but for something like price, we have the option of currency, and we can change this to currency. Receipt required, we don't want 1 or 0. We want something like yes or no. Yes, we want yes or no. And then, well, what do? We save this, and it'll always ask you, well, you're changing the fields, right? You're changing the fields of what can be put into the database. Yes, and you're like, yes, no problem, that's fine. You click yes. And if we go back, I'm going to right click again and go back to, well, I'm going to go click here and go back to the datasheet view. Let's go along here and look here. Look at that. The prices have come out in currency, and it's telling me whether or not we want a receipt, required. So currently, I'm just working from a backstage view where I'm just getting the information and I'm just typing it out. And you'll see why this makes sense in a bit. But the key point here is that this is where the people in the background, the IT guys, if you think about it, are working in the background, and they're setting the fields and saying, sometimes you try typing it into certain, fields, whether on the internet or on computers, and you put in a number instead of a name, and it rejects what you've just done. That's because someone set in the background that field to only accept, if you like, a certain format. Yes, so that's really important to understand. That's what's really happening. That's what the databases have this dual role of being able to do. All right, and let's very quickly look onto the next one. And there's the front end, of course, if you like, which is if you like the front or the face where people tend to put information in. So people don't really put information into this table. No, this table is very much the back view. We'll come back to what that is, where people can put information in to affect the database, but this is really a back view. Yes. Before let's see, maybe we can do one more. Yes, and we've talked about this. The administrators will work at the back end to set the fields, whilst, for example, the sales clerk will work at the front end, and she'll just put the information in for new customers. But I'll talk about what she actually puts that information in. Yes, it's not the tables directly. So yes, what we'll do is, let's see. Yes, we'll stop here for now, and we'll take a break, and then we'll come back in the next lecture.